I'd say more important, but I started paying more attention to it when I went virtual, Easton. Um, when I was in the car driving around,
Wait, did his cuts,
Yeah,
did anybody else lose
yeah.
them?
We just lost your audio, Dom.
how about now?
Yep, we're good.
Gotcha.
Sorry about that. So, Easton, I saw I always heard of affirmations. I haven't done them my whole career. I found a real need for them once I got into virtual sales though, because I needed that every day of like, yo, you got to get your mind right. Something about getting in the car, driving around, listening to podcasts. Like I heard somebody say in a training one day, make your car your university. I was like, bro, we don't drive nowhere. Like you want to be in the car with your kids listening to podcasts? Like, I guess so. But but like when we were driving, like in the field, you kind of had that luxury, right, of being able to learn. Like that was your tax, was driving around and shit. It was either waste gas or learn some shit. Makes sense? But now today, it's like, dude, now, dude, you gotta speak that stuff, and this is personal for me. So, Easton, dude, I'm excited to have you on here, bro. I know we spoke a little bit a few days ago, kind of about where we are. All right. But I know you know the pulse of this company. You know how to get agents off the ground. All right. If I'm looking at this screen right now, I'm looking at Devin, Zach, Shantae, Vaughn, Sean, Felicia, Jonathan, dude, Darren, Christina. I see all these names, dude. Kachina. These are all names. Janny. These are all names that are like, I'm scared shitless of if this is going to work for me. They won't admit it. Maybe they will, but that's where they are. Is this going to work? How is I going to make this work? I hope this works. Is it just them or can I do it too? Let's help them gain that confidence, not just with, but with some factual, tangible, like things to say, hey, do this in your next 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, whatever that may be. It will be better unequivocally. This is not a if it is. This is when you do type of situations, bro. So I'm gonna turn it over to you, bro, because you know what to do. But I'm gonna get the hell out the way, dude. But Easton Patton, dude, Hall of Famer, like probably 5-time personal, probably 3-time agency, if I'm correct. Is that right?
Um, I think four personal, five agency
Or
now.
personal 5 agency. Like, I mean, just running it up, which means personal Hall of Fame is 400 and team is 10 million. So I'm honored to call you a partner, bro. Integrity partner, doing his thing. Dude, how old are you, bro? Are you even 35? How old are you?
Good. That was close. Yeah, I'm 34.
34.
Yep.
How much money you net last year?
Probably just a shade over a mil.
Huh.
And we should track pretty close to three this year.
3 million net this year.
Hmm.
Yeah, it should be pretty fun. All right. You guys, that got your attention? Whatever you got going on, are you going to stop it? Like if you got a call coming in, can you like put it on mute? If you got like a sales call that you're like, man, I really, really like, I think I need to make this sales call. Can you like say, is it worth $3 million? I promise you, he will help you. Let's rock, baby. It's all yours.
Right, dude. That's a lot of pressure. Now I got to fucking deliver here. All right. Um, so here's the skinny on the background. I didn't sell anything before I got here. And I actually didn't know how the company worked, to be honest. I didn't even know we got leads. I saw sales, 400 grand, and I was like, this sounds awesome. Interviewed one time, and then 15 months later, actually got my license and decided to try it. So I had this huge gap where I saw this, I saw the leaderboards, I saw people doing well. Dude, when you're used to working like 60, 70, 80 hour weeks, going from a 40K a year gig to seeing like, oh, that's what I work and I do 400, it mentally doesn't track. So by default, I assumed everybody was lying that worked here, which I was cool with because I was like, even if it's 100, but now I work for myself and don't have people tell me what to do with my life all the time, that's good for me. Like my goal is 100 out of the gate. I get to work for me, no reporting. If I got an event, if I got a family thing, like I can go. And like that was my goal, assuming that nobody was being honest because it sounds weird when you talk to someone and they're like, "Oh yeah, I sell insurance, make half million or yeah, make half mil a year." I'm like, "No, you don't, dude. Shut up. I don't believe you." It's just not believable or realistic if you don't know how the insurance business works. So had all the same, like, I doubt it's like this. I'm not sure if this is for me. I didn't know that we bought leads. I didn't know what a chargeback was. I just talked to a guy who was selling at a high level part time, and then within 2 weeks of my start date, I met Zach and John Wetmore for the first time. Like I flew out to one of the Carolinas, whatever one that was, and went to my first event. And that's what actually kind of made it seem like I met Zach, dude, when he was this awkward kind of chunky dude in his early 20s. Richard Talbot was there. He was actually I was like, dude, if Richard's a Hall of Famer, I'm going to crush this thing no matter what. Because there's no way that he's allowed within like 100 feet of the school and he's doing well. So I'm for sure going to do well when I get here. I know that's really disrespectful, but that was like a validation piece for me. Just a bunch of normal dudes doing their best that were seeing success. So I was like, oh, I probably have a shot, just require a lot of work, whatever. Um, it was the worst and most stressful point in time in my whole life, dude, when I started here. They turned off all my credit cards. I couldn't make my mortgage payment. I thought they're going to take my car and my house. I thought me and my girlfriend were going to have to start living outside. Like I didn't have a plan and it was not going good. So that was my first 10 weeks in the business where it literally couldn't have gone any worse. The only thing that I was good at early was booking fake appointments first and then more real ones eventually. But I was good at working because I had worked for forever, dude. I had my first 70-hour week job. I was literally 12 years old working on another farm, hauling bales around and pipe and all that other shit. So that's how I started my working career. So working in insurance without physical labor is just really mentally taxing. I could understand that part and then do the workload. So I was not confused that people like Zach, John, Sean, and all these they were not getting results because they were half in, kind of working, pretending that 40 hours a week was full time running a business. So that was the only thing that I probably understood early in the entire business. Um, Huge kind of like transformation of my entire process. I realized that this is a needs-based, emotionally tied sale. So this was my favorite Andrew Taylor advice of all time, which I've literally talked about 1,000 times. So I'm sorry if you've already heard this, but I called Andrew for help one day. And whatever I had said sounded like a complaint. And he told me to quit insurance and go get a regular job because I don't care about people. And I was like, damn, I was definitely not calling to get this response, obviously. So it was kind of a big wake up call. And Andrew, being himself, he didn't even know that he was being rude. He's just as like that. He was just like, I was just giving you honest feedback, dude, do my best. So called Zach. I was like, dude, let's go to Vegas and kill Andrew. He totally sucks. And then obviously I got over that eventually, did not hurt Andrew in any physical manner. And then thanked him eventually for kind of checking me on like, hey, I'm working hard. I understand people. I'm good with people. I can't sell here. I don't know what I'm doing. And he was like, you just don't care about people. So quit and go to work. Just get a job, dude. It's not a good fit for you. So that was like a huge staple piece of understanding. You actually have to care about the people that we're working with first. This is why we built this really high level downsell culture in my organization because I figured out that selling 130 grand in a month and having a 60% persistency sucks to run your business like that. And so at a smaller scale, understanding that our job is to go out and help and serve people, make sure that whatever we find them, it's good for them forever. Because the only policy that matters is the one that's enforced on the day that they pass. And so there was a bunch of different mentality shifts and skill set went up over time. The new agent getting up and running fast, the expectations thing is huge. I'm like, Dom, this will more than likely be one of the most difficult things you've ever done in your life. I don't care if you come from sales or you don't come from sales. This is its own kind of animal in a way. It's a really lot of moving parts in the beginning. The insurance terms gonna get crazy if you don't know insurance. So this it's a lot of confusing things right when you start. So the prep is this is going to be insanely difficult. Here's what happened to me where I almost had to live outside. So I share that so they don't think they're going to trip and fall to a $500,000 because they saw some leaderboards they don't understand without the volume of effort and the stress that can go into performing at a high level. So that is a big part of when I bring people in. Like, dude, this thing can totally suck sometimes. And if you're not accountable to your own business, it is going to kind of beat the hell out of you when you're getting started. I would highly recommend, and I know this is not for everybody's schedule, but I'm just like, hey, 90 hours a week for 90 days is like my pitch. And in the virtual game, it really doesn't have to be that much anymore because now we can sell 5, 6 days a week where we're not splitting our dial days to appointment running to dial days to appointment running. Now we can just sell and make money every day. So you can get in 5 to 6 days what used to require 7 days. You can actually be more productive in two less work days. But when you're new and you're learning, you are not entitled to time off. And I think that that's where there gets to be this confusion is like you don't get to get your ass kicked for 5 days and then go black out and get drunk for 2 days over the weekend and then confused on Monday why you feel bad and aren't doing well. So you have to earn the freedom back. It does not come day one. This is a sales business, not a sales job. And that's kind of like my explanation early. So obviously, our hope is that nobody I ever bring into the business ever has to go through that violent of a start where their life is kind of in shambles. Um, so we got a bunch of stuff in place to avoid all that. But I want the expectations to be pretty crystal so that when you come to me and you're struggling, we go through your data and maybe listen to some of your calls, but it's very easy to pinpoint where is our hiccup. So expectation piece for brand new agents, Dom, is a very, very big thing. Before I even bring people into the business, I want them to know it was horrible for me. I almost didn't make it, dude. Like I was really close to going out. I had about a 24-hour window left where a couple $100 left on my final card before that was off and I was out. And like that's kind of when the light bulb magic for me happened. And I had two really big days and it completely changed my whole career. But that took 10 weeks of like misery and frustration and like anger and confusion of like, I don't know if I can do this or not. But I kind of just kept showing up. And I also, dude, I never ever told anybody in my close market that I was struggling. So like Lindsay, my now wife, girlfriend at the time, she had no idea what I was doing to us financially. I didn't share it with her at all. I just said, getting a little bit better today. It wasn't bad. Had some sits. Like that was as much information as I would share because I didn't feel like it was going to help for me to tell my friends that I was doing bad, my parents that I was struggling, my girlfriend that I was struggling. It wasn't going to benefit or change anything. So I didn't want to like share that. And then I got negativity coming back my direction. So when you're kind of going through that really difficult spot, and listen, if you're married and your situation's different and you kind of got to share with the class, I understand. I just didn't feel like that was going to help anybody for me to tell her like, hey, we're like 6 days from not living in here, as a heads up. I didn't think that that was going to help. So I kind of kept all that to myself. And then Zach knew that it wasn't going well, and Wetmore, who I leaned on a lot early. But if you can kind of come at this thing with the attitude that, this is the when you were doing the affirmations, I was like, if not you, then who? Like, why not me? I don't understand why Dom gets to win so big. What is special about Dom? He's just a regular dude that works really hard. Like, he doesn't seem like he has any of this unique. Now, I will say with Dom, you're an exception. I think you're naturally a very good speaker, but I've only known you since you've been able to do that. So I don't know what you were like before. Now, Dom, I had already met you and you were already good with people and it was easy for you to talk to people. But like, I don't know how long it took you to develop that skill set, but outside of that, dude, I just didn't feel like anybody had unique abilities that couldn't be learned. It's a talentless gig that you can develop skills for, but it doesn't require any innate ability. We've got a million stories of this guy was in the oil field for 11 years, sells 40. This dude had high school dropout, sells 40. Like there's a million examples of people with no experience, no background that come in here, plug in, work their asses off, show up to training and light it up. So having all of those, proof in the pudding kind of stories, I never felt like there was anything unique about this that Bryce had and you had that, like, why can't I figure out how to do those exact things? You just have to remember how to say a handful of paragraphs in the correct order to walk into a close. That's it. It's not anything unique besides script memorization early, and then you'll develop personality as you go. But dude, it's just these are the words that you say, and you say them in this exact order. You don't have to know what they mean early, but if you just read this piece of paper front, back, and sideways, you will fall into more closes because you're setting everything up how you should to avoid the objections and the no close. So a big piece of like how we get everybody started. Schedule expectations. This is hard. Not everybody makes it for a reason. Here's what we're doing specifically to have high retention, high performers. This is their calendar. This is their lead spend. So if you're looking to get into the bracket that you see on the leaderboards, here's the requirement if you want to excel at that level. And so that has been a enormous part, Dom, of getting people up running where we can help them build confidence through high repetitions of training, showing up on Zoom and dialing together, or what's the other one? Discord. Is that I think that's the other one that a lot of people are using now. It's like a Slack Zoom had a baby thing. Apparently, it's for gamers. I just got in there, like a month and a half ago. I didn't really know what it was for, but it's not a bad platform. So just as a start, Dom, I feel like that's a pretty good way to lead into whatever else that you want me to cover. But this attitude and mentality, like nobody here is special. You'll hear it over and over and over again. But what does that mean? That means it doesn't take any special abilities to work a lot and then learn and be coachable. I'm not going to ever dunk from the free throw line. I can't run a 4-4. I'm not strong. I can't out wrestle people. I don't have any of those talents, but selling insurance to people that ask for it by learning a specific set of paragraphs in a certain order is not difficult. It just takes repetition. So that's where I'll start.
Huge, huge. All right, so I got things that I've been writing down, but I'm gonna circle back to that care about people piece. Okay. Um, what do you mean by that? You said you got to care, but you weren't caring about people. What did that look like? What does it look like to work hard and not care about people? Okay. What does it look like to work hard and actually care about people? What are the things you were telling yourself about the client? What were the things you were telling yourself about? What was all that talk?
So the work hard, no care is I would walk in, obviously in-home stuff, but it functions the same on the phone. You get somebody on the phone, you're like, cool, you're looking for insurance. I found this one for $62. How does that sound? They're like, sounds good. I'll call you in a few days and let you know what I decide. You're like, damn it, I already missed something. So I have no idea who's in charge. Why do they want it? Have they done it before? Why is there like, what's the value of getting it? Who are they trying to take care of? Like, and sitting in that pocket, getting a little bit uncomfortable. This getting comfortable being uncomfortable thing is redundant and as may sound. It's people are so weird to me about not asking normal questions. So, hey, you're dead. Who's in charge of paying for all your stuff? It's just that's what our job is. And I did not understand that you have to treat people like you would your own family. So I had this big light bulb adjustment where I'm sitting with a couple and I'm like, if somebody was coming to my parents' house to talk to them, how would I want them to go through this with my own parents? Like, what's up, Brett? If you die, your wife doesn't work. She has 3 kids at home. What does that look like for you guys? And it doesn't have to be that direct right out of the gate, but I want to have that conversation so I can figure out what do you need? How can I help? Who's in charge that we're trying to look out for? So basically, Dom, short version, you're not around. We need to make sure the wife's got a little extra for the kids because income's going to get turned off. We still have house bills, all the other stuff. Fair enough? Yes, exactly. All right, cool. Here's what we'll do today. Just setting the structure and moving through the rest. But this like walking in or getting someone on the phone and sprinting to a price to see if they're going to buy or not, they're not. Obviously, there's lay down exceptions, but you have to like understand their exact situation so that you can go, all right, cool. Here's what my job is. And it sounds like this is what your concern is. This is what we're going to look for to start. Here's how it works. And just being a little bit more attentive when you're asking those questions. That was like the thing I didn't understand early, where I'm showing up, getting to prices in 4 minutes, and I don't even know the name of a beneficiary at all. Zero. None.
And which, with all due respect, bro, like I was in the same boat when I started. Like I didn't understand. It was very obvious. I'm gonna let y'all know this. When I got into this, like I came in very, very like, oh, dude, this is gonna be easy. Like, oh, this is gonna be easy as hell, dude. There's people who filled out forms. Ah, I got this, bro. I got lit up. And the same thing, Sean was like, dude, you gotta actually care about people. But just what got me into the business was leads. People filled it out. We're all gonna die, obviously. So why would I have to do all that why stuff? Why would I have to get all nosy? Like, dude, they filled out a form. They know they're gonna die. So let me just try to get them the cheapest product, right? That just seemed obvious to me. That seemed like, but that's not what this is. And so when you say care about people, it wasn't the opposite isn't that you don't care. But if you do care, you ask questions. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like he
Yeah.
was going in the house going, ah, screw these people. It was just, dude, I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to do. So my next question is, what's the difference between, I heard you say 40K a lot throughout your thing. Is 40K a number that you guys speak about a lot?
Um, yeah, the so it was 33 a month is Hall of Fame,
Right?
right? So you sell 33K a month all the time. It's Hall of Fame. So the bare minimum standard for our goal should be 40 because we don't want to be like right on the margin of being recognized for technically being good at the job. We want to be just a little bit ahead. And so it was always this, whatever the standard of greatness is, like let's just wiggle it a little bit. And then we became a really big like 50K or die culture group for quite a long time.
Right.
Uh, we're like I know that if you're out selling 50, you're in a significant bracket than probably the majority of the people that you know. You're taking care of a lot of people and you can live a little bit different. And then if you want to get into the building and organization side of things, if you know the rule of thumb is everybody does half of what you do, that's why Zach and I tried to drive to the production up to 100K months for the leaders. So then your second wave of people was all doing 50, and then their wave of people was all doing 25. And then by the time you get to wave four, it's 12 and a half. So we're still staying way above average if you can set a bar really, really high so that everybody that you work with can get into a really stable financial situation, which is the whole goal of bringing people in here. You take a risk, you work your ass off, you have to talk to a lot of people. It's its own mental grind, but you're coming here to be financially free, and we wanted to be unique in that way where we're driving really really high levels of production so that everybody that's following us, they don't even have to do that. You can do half and do 600 grand a year in sales. That's a pretty good way to live, dude, if you're just looking at a strict selling standpoint. So that 40 was our first wave of like, hey, you're above the 33 mark, so we're in a good spot to stand out. And then 50 was like our big press, I guess, if you will.
Got you.
We had all 50 care dye shirts and hats and all that,
Dude,
funny stuff.
I asked Heather this question. This is a question. I'm gonna just keep running this question every single week. Um, Give me the mindset, lead spin, and activity of these three levels of producers. Okay. So the producer that's sub 10,000, $10,000, and they be clear, it's not their first, second month. They've been here 90 days. Okay. Been here 90 days. All right. But what's that? And even within that 90 days, what are those attitudes like? What's that sub $10,000 a month producer? 5 to 10. We're not going to do 0 to 5. 5 to 10.
So it's really interesting that you will come here and take a bet on yourself, but then you won't actually bet on yourself. So the just a big scarcity and uncomfort, and it's really nerve-wracking when you do it the first time. But to go, all right, I'm going to put $500 into the unknown, like that makes me really uncomfortable. The the game plan is to go from 500 to 1,000 to 15 to 2,000 a week in consistent lead spend. We want to gradually build you up to that marker. And I've had maybe two guys ever legitimately spend 700 a week and become 30K producers. That is like a one in a million that you'll ever find. On average, to be have a very predictable income, that 1,500 to 2 grand has always been our sweet spot for 30 to 40. Skilled guys can do about 50 on 2K a week. It can go up a little bit from there, but I know that if you're consistently feeding your business, you'll walk into more laydowns and you don't have to work as hard to break even. And like I think that's where the math confusion usually is I'm uncomfortable spending more than 500. And so I think if I can dig and dig and dig and dig, I can eventually find 1,000 and maybe 1,500 in sales. But then after your advance, you're only ahead a little bit. If you triple down on your lead flow, you have three times as many shots to find a close where you'll stumble into more easy ones and then you can work for your middle ones and then your skill closes the hard ones. But that comes over time and repetition. So if you're here 90 days and you're trying to figure out how do I actually move past this, I'm only selling 10 grand and it's my third month here. All you have to do is audit your numbers, audit how much you're actually feeding your business, how many, so hours, data, calls, presentations, closes, It's a gigantic math equation. And if you're like, if the average sale is going to sit between $500 and $1,000 per close, right? They take about an hour. And you spend 500, now you have to dig through that batch to get one to break even, maybe two to break even and make some money. If you did three times that volume, now you have to get two to three sales to break even, sometimes just one, but you have 3x the volume of people to work through to go out and find the rest of your business. So you're killing yourself being so focused on consolidating. I want to be net profitable. I have to do all this other stuff instead of just feeding the machine and sticking to a really high level schedule. That will solve the majority of the production problems. Everybody that gets stuck, I'm like, when was the last time you got leads? 3 weeks ago. I'm like, we already talked about this before you started. Like, it's never going to work if you don't have consistent inventory in your business. Nobody opens up Pizza Hut and buys supplies and sauce for a week and then hope that lasts for the month. That would be insane. And since you're running a sales business and you know that we can teach people how to flip money, and the more volume have, the easier it is to fall into net profit, why would you not play it safer by spending more, which is backwards from how our minds are basically trained from when we're little, I think, where you're like, ooh, this is really risky. What if I don't do it? Well, you're already not doing it on 500, so is it really that big of a risk? You're already not where you want to be. So why don't you start by doubling down on yourself this week? And then from there, we can go up a little bit more and then up a little bit more. You'll see yourself start to flip more money consistently. You have so many more shots at it, dude. And so that's where we've really honed into how to get someone from 5 to 10 to 15 to 30 plus in production. This is the exact formula. 500, you flip it, do 1,000, you flip it, do 2,000, you flip it. And obviously you can kind of jump into that 1,000 to 15 to 2. But I don't ever want there to be confusion that this is a leads-based inventory model. You have to have people to talk to, or I can't help you learn how to make money. I've never had a really big production month on 500 a week, ever. Never in my career have I spent that little, respectfully, because I understood, well, technically that's not true because I didn't know we paid for leads when I started, but obviously I learned that very quickly. But even from day one, I'm 2 grand to 2,500 a week on leads my first week after I found out that we had to buy leads. So even when I was homeless broke, I still went and got credit cards that I could bang on because I knew we had to have inventory or it wasn't going to work. And so that you're taking a risk to work in a contract commission job, but then you don't actually take the full risk by investing in yourself. And this affirmations thing you talked about, dude, you're already going in on you, so why don't you actually do it? Or else you're going to be stuck in this like weird phase your entire career, or you'll end up doing something else. This is way too hard to me to go out and make 50 grand a year doing. There's a million other jobs with no stress that I would rather do than be in a straight commission contract business to make 50K a year. And I'm 100% serious about that because there's so much opportunity to get yourself financially stable. I can go out and make 80 to 100 grand at a lot of other jobs where I have no risk. I got weekends off. I work 9 to 5. So why would you put yourself through this and then starve your business and not actually bet on you? And like that's what we really try to drive home with like working up your lead spend to be a top producer.
Man, well, that pretty much, leads is everything. Let's talk about the difference. How about give me a different, I want you to answer mindset. Well, actually, let me see. What did you change to get you better at digging into the why? Let's answer that. Bryce got a question here. What did you change to get better at digging into the why and not just jumping straight to numbers?
So I heard a training that Zach and Grayson had done when I was new, pretty new into my, when I was struggling with the Y section, and they said if everybody just set a 10-minute timer and asked why questions for 10 minutes, people would sell a lot more insurance because they would actually know why people needed it. And I took that literally. I thought that they were telling us that's what we're supposed to do. So I went into my next home and I set a timer on my phone for 10 minutes and I turned it over and I refused to move on to the next part of the appointment until that timer went off, which was really awkward because I ran out of questions to ask my first 3 minutes. And so I just kept asking the same stuff over and over and confirming, which I'm sure was annoying for them. But that sitting at the table, Bryce, and going, if this was my parents, what kind of questions would I ask? Or if it's a single guy that's 70, like, and his kids in charge, okay, where do they live? Do they have kids and family? What does he do for work? Like, I need to understand what that person's situation is so that I can create a solution that's good for them and then still smooth on budget. I just kind of like took a step back. Obviously, I asked Zach and John a lot of questions that I should be asking. One thing that used to drive me nuts is I would ask like, what kind of why questions, should I be asking? Like, dude, you just need to figure out why that, why they want to do it. I'm like, well, that's not helpful. I need some specifics. So, like, if you're not around, who's in charge? Have you guys talked about this before? Are you planning on staying in this place long term? Are you going to have to sell and downsize? Does your kid have to fly out here, take time off work, bring his family, and pay for all your stuff? So that's not financially doable for them. Just explain to me kind of like what the situation is, what happens without it. Is there a reason you haven't looked into this before? Did you get declined? Did you get rated really high and it wasn't worth it? Did you get overshown cost? I want to try to kind of have as much of that information as I can before I go anywhere else in the appointment. If you don't have why and direction, you're just shooting in the dark, dude. So it doesn't even have to be this, I'm going to ask questions until people cry, where I'm like, Dom, why haven't you done this before? You know that if you go, your whole family can't stay in the house. They have no money and don't have a way to live. So you're like, why haven't you done this yet? I don't want to like attack somebody, but figuring out what's the driving force for why is it now, Bryce? Like, why are you deciding to look into this now and take it a little bit more serious? Did something happen? Do you know someone that passed? Did you see a kid got sick at a young age and you're like, damn, I'm in my 40s and I still don't have this done? What is the reason that you started looking and who's in charge without it? And what does that look like? And just sitting in that kind of uncomfortable pocket um, for longer than you think you need to, and at least getting a second, maybe third in-depth follow-up of why, that will control pretty much how the back half of the appointment goes. The three things that I would say we call a requirement when you're getting people on the phone is you have to do an introduction where you get credibility. So you call, getting back to you, confirm information, reintroduce yourself, give state ID. So now we've got, okay, I'm talking to the right guy. Before we get carried away, I want to make sure you have my state ID stuff because it's 2025. You know how it is. I need to make sure that you know I'm legal. Here's my info. Next step is I want to get into that why. Same stuff that we just talked about. I need direction. Why is this important to you? Do you have some? Do you have none? What's the deal? So get why and direction. That's the emotional tie to the purchase, the purpose behind the purchase. Once you have a why, they tell you exactly what they're looking for or what they would like to find. Then you just have to set structure of the entire appointment. Sweet, Bryce. My job's super easy, dude. We underwrite for like, I don't know, 40, 50 some insurance companies. What I do is I grab some info from you. I shop the whole country to figure out who your cheapest match is. Once I find that company, you're just going to custom design your own plan and price exactly how you want. So it's enough for your family and really smooth on your budget. And then from there, dude, all I do is send your stuff over to make sure you get a green light offer back. Sound good? Yep, sounds good. All right, cool. Next part. And then you're just going through like suitability stuff to figure out where to actually place them. The back half of that why, Bryce, comes in the financial inventory where now I've got an emotional tie, and now I get to go through their top-down debt to income. And I'm like, Bryce, you're making 6 grand a month right now. Your wife doesn't work. You got 2 kids at home. If this paycheck goes away, we're talking 72 grand a year. Over the next decade, you guys are going to be out almost 750 grand. That's $750,000 in income that's zapped over the next decade. This is a huge problem. Makes sense why you're looking. So just to confirm, blah, 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 we're looking for this for the wife. Okay, makes sense. And then I'm going to kind of breeze past that to the next part. But that's my emotional tie meets logic, which is like lost income, homeless family, big problem. Makes sense why you want this. Emotion and logic is how we close. So having both of those match together, if you have a really strong why and you overshow cost, good luck, dude. That's really hard to recover from. And if you have no why and it's a pure logic sale, they don't have any heart tied to the close. So they're just buying something because it's affordable, but they don't have any tie to why it actually matters. So you got to have both in a perfect scenario to get consistent closes. Why and logic have to be a part of the equation. And then just being a normal person, like have your person. I was trying to be Dom Rogers in the house for like 3 weeks. We are not the same person, obviously. So me pretending like I'm somebody else in someone's home was probably awkward for them too. Like, why are you talking to me like that? That's how Dom talks. I'm not that person, dude. So having your own personality and being yourself actually makes the job a lot more enjoyable too, because you don't have to fake like you're somebody else or be over professional. I'm really like laid back, casual, probably say some wild stuff to clients that are like, this guy's really weird, but at least he's a regular person. That was kind of like my style that I had built over reps instead of replicating somebody else's personality. I was just living, kind of like my own version. Structurally, the process was the same, but I can still be myself and it works. So I know that was a long answer to your question, Bryce, but if you have a follow-up, I'll be more than happy to answer it.
No, man, that was huge. I mean, if I'm hearing you right, it sounds like, early on we got to discover what the heck they were thinking when they filled out this form, but you really use financial inventory to like dig deep. You know what I mean? Use the income, loss of income, and then that's when you kind of like circle back and like really hone in and get more specific about the why from there. Like, do you ever see that people try to ask too many of those hard-hitting questions like too early on without knowing anything about like income, beneficiary, anything like that?
Yeah, and that initial why, there's a good balance between over beating them to death that they haven't made the decision yet and fixed it to
Yeah.
like, I just want to make sure that I'm on the same page with how I can help. So yeah, there is a certain line that you can cross where they're like, Bryce, I get it. I don't have it. It's not good. Can you back off? So like, yeah, having some direction and purpose behind why they need it is really important, but they get it, dude. You don't have to beat them to death with their own decisions. So that's to your point, a really good balance that sometimes you learn the hard way. Like I made this lady cry, and so she asked me to leave pretty early in my career. I wasn't intending to do that. I was just trying to make sure I understood thoroughly. And then Waterworks came. She was like, "This isn't a good time. I need you to go." And I'm like, "Damn it. Okay, that was a little. I went a little too far on the why stuff. I need to relax."
Right.
So that's how I learned. Like, there's a certain threshold where pretty soon the uncomfort is a little excessive. So getting a baseline confirming through financial inventory or even confirming like and then you had mentioned your kid is married with some kids and stuff and he's a manager at Lowe's, so safe to say if he had to come up with 15, 20, 30 grand overnight or something like that, pretty rough spot for him financially with like wife and kids and everything. Is that close? Yep, exactly. All right, cool, all good, move on to the next part.
Yeah.
And it's just like those little confirmations like that are big, and again, you don't have to baseball bat people. Like they already know that there's a problem, so if they give you like this is why, then you can confirm and then kind of keep on with the rest of the appointment.
Dude, this is good. All right. I wrote down emotional tie and then logical and facts. So when you're looking at the steps in your script, right? You said you can't have one without the other, but it's great to know what you're doing, why you're doing each one. If you're lacking with ammo during that first one, when you get to the financial inventory, it's going to be weak as hell.
Yep.
And you won't have anything other than how much America's premium is to talk to them about. Makes sense?
Yeah.
And you're building up the plan is you building up their specific scenario, right? So build a plan with me. Just give me whatever. I'm a general client. You get to that piece, right? You know about me and how do you build the plan out? Do you know what I mean? Like, what's that look like?
Yep. So virtual, this is where we had a learning curve, is flipping top down selling into bottom up selling.
Hey, I got
That
this
is
from Miro,
where,
by the way. Just so y'all know. Didn't I tell you guys this whole minimum thing? You're the minimum man, by the way, bro. You're the minimum man. I was like, this minimum shit crushes on virtual sales. And you think, say minimum, you're going to get little premiums. That's not true. That just gets you in the door to get the big ones. That's what I've learned, dude. So this is where you're going, I think. But like, this is where I got all that minimum talk from is Easton Padden. So
yep.
bottom
And
up.
I also ripped that off from somebody. I just can't remember who, but I've stolen quite literally everything that I've ever learned here. I created nothing at all. I have no original ideas. It is what it is. So certainly, maybe some of my word tracks are very specific to my lingo, but it's all ripped off ideas. So if I have this big conversation with you, Dom, we're gonna get all the way to the bottom, and now you can do this part two different ways. So if you can ask it or tell it confidently, I always prep information that I'm going to need before I show numbers so that if they're going to object to giving me info, I can handle it before they get what they want, which is a quote. So I want to have that control with me still. So if they've already bought insurance, it's like, hey Dom, same as the last time that you bought insurance. they're just going to ask for all the same stuff, obviously, just regular driver's license, address, birthday, social, bank you used to pay, and beneficiary stuff, just like the last one. Just giving you a heads up that they will ask for that once you get that far. Does that make sense? All right, cool. And then once they're like, oh, yep, obviously, all good, great. Then I will start going into the quote stuff. The other one is if they've never done it before, I just tried to find something that I thought was relatable to what everybody has done that's had to give up their info. So like just like when you go to get a car at the dealership, Dom, and they've got to, verify ID, make sure you say you are, have a way to pay for the vehicle, all that stuff. This is the exact same info that they're going to ask for on the insurance request. Except for they don't even run a credit check, which is great. So same stuff, driver's license, birthday, address, social, bank you used to pay, and then all the beneficiary info. Does that make sense? I just wanted to give you a heads up because they are going to ask you once we get that far. Cool. And that was my way to like prep any sort of like social bank, the big stuff that people don't want to give out. Now they've got my ID. They have the expectation of what it looks like after we land on a good plan for them. And I can address any concerns at that moment before I get into a quote. And then I ask for their driver's license to start the app. And they're like, I don't feel like giving you that. They already know. I already told them I need it. So that one, some people wait a little bit longer to give, where they set that final framework for here's what I'll need, because they feel like if I ask them for this stuff early, they're going to object. They're already going to object to. They're just going to do it later. So that was my reasoning behind putting that before I showed quotes. Once we get to that far, I'm like, all right, Dom, so I plugged all your stuff in. Here's the three minimum options that the insurance carrier came back as just baseline recommendations. And then once we get their first three initial recommendations, you can go up, down, in the middle, however you want to do it. Everything is custom to you. So I can kind of actually manually tailor this and make any adjustments that you want. This is just the three that they came back with as your original offer. Sound fair? Cool. And then I'm going to go, all right, 10 grand was this much, 15 grand was this much. And then if you went up to 20, it's going to be this much a month. Now, Dom, out of those three, which one do you feel like is the easiest one for you to get off the ground with month to month on the budget that you still think is enough left behind for the wife? And I'm just going to state and wait and let him think about which one he wants to start with. But I'm always asking, which one do you want to start with that you feel like is easy enough for you month to month that is also still enough help left behind for the wife? And I'm bringing the beneficiary back to the table because that's why we're doing it in the first place. So I need them to feel that we're doing it for them. So where do you want to get off the ground? And then that was my way of, when you have the 77-year-old client that has to have 100 grand or else he's not getting anything, I'm like, we can certainly do that. Here's where we're going to start for insurance company recommendations. They came back here. I can drive it up how you want. This is the baseline. And that way you're not getting into this, hey, 100 grand is $685. They totally freak out and hang up the phone, and you already lost them because they got shell shocked and they're like, I knew I couldn't afford it. I'm out. Hang up. You never get a hold of them again. But if I can start small and inch my way up, then that gives me control to like show three affordable options. I already know what their budget is, dude, because I already went through their soft budget in the client worksheet. I know what's coming in. I know what's going out. I know what they lose. I have all that info. I'm never getting a real budget objection because I already know exactly what's in and out. So I'll go back to that, like, my bad, I obviously missed something, Dom. When we went through your budget earlier, did I miss something in here? Because this is what we had prior. So out of the 1,500 that's left every month, the 400 that's left every month, which one of these three do you feel like is the easiest? Because we got 400 to spare. The bottom plan is $60. So I know it can fit. They just don't want to pay, or they're scared to make a decision. So, but anyway, I'm never going to get a budget objection, but that's how I present and ask for the business.
Mm.
I shift blame. Here's what they offered. I can move it however you want. Which one do you want to start with? And it takes away a lot of the pressure for them because they get to make it to the penny of what they want.
Do you guys notice he just said that shift blame? Did you hear it when he did all that language of they? This is what they came back with. All of these things is to make it between I'm working for you. It's not me who's coming back with these prices. It's them. But I'm working my ass off for you. Talk to us why you do that, what that is, where that came from, and what's all that about?
I just got tired of hearing the, like, I told you I wanted 100, though we could do 100. This is just what their recommendations were. Instead of going like, well, I'm not sure that you can afford 100, Dom. So why don't we take a look at 10 first? They're like, that's not what I want. But if I'm like, hey, the insurance company came back with these three baselines to start, our job again is just to get you in the door for that minimum offer so you have some instead of none. I can bring this up to, I don't care if you do 550, 500, 5 million, dude. I'm just here to figure out what do you qualify for? What can you afford so that you always have something in place instead of none. The last thing that we want you to do, Dom, is start overspending on an insurance plan you can't have long term, die with nothing. Does that make sense? So here's what we'll do instead. Here's these three initial offers. And then yeah, some are like, oh, 30 is only this much. What's 50? Those are the best clients of all time because you're like, damn, yes, 50 is this much. And like, well, here, let's go 40 and then 50. Which one of those two do you prefer? And I'll still downsell when they ask for 50. Okay, here's 40 and then here's 50. I'm still shooting the gap to protect myself from overshowing. And they're like, well, maybe we'll do 30. Maybe 40 is the sweet spot. So I just go 40, 50 instead. And that can be used in any kind of scenario, whether it's 100, 150, 200, you shoot a
Right.
175 and a 225 gap, you can do all of that stuff. That is kind of like what the agent actually has to do. Our job is not to overshow once we've provided all this value.
Massive. Yo, let's take let's open it up, man. Anybody have any questions? I can sit here all day and ask you stuff, dude. But like let's see what anybody else wants to
Yeah,
ask. We got
you
10
guys
minutes,
can
so
hammer
it's
me with
worth a
whatever
lot.
you can think of.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, you guys can hammer me with whatever questions that you can think of.
Yeah, let's
Um, and I also am a pretty big believer. I don't think that there's dumb questions because if you don't know it, then you got to ask.
rock. Real.
Hey,
Hey,
Easton, I
Easton.
just want to say thanks for all the gems. Appreciate the knowledge in the game. I definitely saw you on YouTube before, and I was like, you know, this dude is killing it. So, yeah, man, it's good to be able to see you on here and get the game from you. Not quite in person, but So yeah,
Yeah,
appreciate everything.
absolutely, Devontae. Nice to meet you, dude.
You too. Thanks.
Yo, Easton.
What's up, Schmidt?
So Sean talked about chasing customers earlier today on a call, and we all get that that head fake, that fake confidence. Oh, the person's gonna, and then we start chasing, and we start, like, hey, I'm not gonna buy new leads because like these 15,000 people told me to call them back. They're really interested, even if they already gave us social security numbers and all this other stuff. So can you kind of give us your philosophy on that and where that goes? Because sometimes you're calling these like, hey, let me call these people. At least I knew I could get to the social. I got to the banking. So can you just kind of give us your mindset on, because we all have those. I mean, I have a stack of them here. They're actually right here that that I have. So can you give us your thoughts on that?
Yeah, now virtual is a little bit more unique than the in-home part of that, Schmidt, because in this game, yes, you can still catch some people on the other side with follow-ups, but your percentages is not that much different. And everybody does it in the beginning because you just don't know any better. Where you're like, oh yeah, they didn't have access to their bank, but they're going to go first thing in the morning, walk to the bank, they're going to call me with their account number, and then we're going to be live. It's like a $4,000 deal that'll take care of me for the whole week. And then you're constantly chasing down a client for days because you're counting on a paycheck you don't earn or you didn't earn yet. So yeah, there's definitely a balance between how hard do you press to close all the time, or is there like a little balance where you're going to give a little bit of wiggle room? A lot of that stuff by default, I would say most of the time you have one shot to close the business. And so don't let clients head fake you or give you fake objections that aren't real. This is where we got to do our job and like stand up for the survivors, right? Because it's not about that specific client, it's about who's left behind without it. So I'll
Stand
always
up for
do
the
a little
survivors.
bit of a press to like, hey, this is what you told me, this is what we went through, we know this fits in budget. Am I missing anything else? As I mentioned, you do have time, Schmidt. We'll send it in for the minimum. If they give you a green light, you get a month to make any adjustments back up. Little overcoming objection stuff like that. I never want people to get trapped into chasing a funnel for so long that it's been 2.5 weeks since you closed a deal and you also haven't bought any leads because you have all these fake customers that you're waiting on paychecks from.
Mhm.
So putting people into a drip or following up with the client once or twice, just like in the middle of your day, as an example, like shooting them a quick text, that is always going to be recommended, but it's not like I'm going to follow up with this guy because I've got this big deal I'm closing tomorrow. Just
Yeah.
assume that more than likely you'll never get him back on and you won't close it, but be willing to reach out just in case. just it has to be like a once or twice quick message, and then you just got to move on. Because again, you always have to have inventory coming in, or you can't actually learn how to predict your own income.
Love it. And with like 5, 6 hours left tonight, maybe more depending if you're in Alaska or Hawaii of dialing tonight and then, hopping on tomorrow morning, we're going to get a lot of this, um, Labor Day talk, holiday talk. So, what are you working with your client, your agents, and what are you teaching them about when it comes up? Because I mean, we have this one, then we're going to have another one, but there's no Easter egg hunt tomorrow, and there's no Santa Claus coming down the chimney this weekend. So what are your thoughts, or what are you teaching on that, Easton?
Um, I probably literally stole some of this stuff from Sean, but I think that there are real holidays versus fake holidays, and when you're a legitimate business owner, which as a even as an entry level, I just started a new agent, you're running your own sales business. So it kind of comes back to that. You have to earn the right to miss all these days. It's one of the best days to be on the phone of the year. All these like not Christmas, not Easter days. Thanksgiving, you could toss a coin. I've got some really good days on Thanksgiving and some not so good days on, reactions on Thanksgiving. But for just a Labor Day, like we'll have probably 93% of our Denver sales force will all be in office on Monday, like it's just another day of the week. Um, we know that people are going to be home happy, hanging out. So it's a perfect day to get on the phone with as many people as you can. You can have a really, really, really big sales day on fake holidays, which I'm not saying that it's, if you think it's a real holiday, I'm not trying to be rude. But it's not it's just like a Labor Day. And we don't get to abide by those rules because we're in charge. So
I'm
I
sorry,
would
bro.
don't head fake yourself that like you need it. If your back's against the wall, like you don't technically get any days off until you're out of that situation. And that's kind of how we've always talked to our team. I don't want that the reason I am specifically going up is because I don't want people to say, well, Easton's not working today. So like I don't have to work either. Our situation's not the same. And I'm still going to work because people are counting on me to show up and help when they need it in our office. So I'm still going to go and do what I have to do and be around our team that's willing to show up and get help. Like I want to be around them too, so they don't think that I feel entitled to never work again because, I've been here X amount of time. Um, that's kind of like what the majority of our group is pretty bought in on.
Thank you, Easton. Appreciate you.
You got it.
Dude, one thing that I love that I've heard you talk about a lot of times is like that 90-day push, right? And like, we always talk about, in the beginning, go a hard 90 to get it started. But dude, a lot of us maybe have already been here 90 days, right? And we need to kind of do a new 90. So dude, if you could real quick talk about like why 90 days, what things to focus on, and like what you can get out of like having that 90-day push that you talk about.
That 90-day press can happen at any point in your career. When you're new, I think it's extremely important to have a really hard push early because you want to get through the learning curve and develop a skill set and understand what you're doing as fast as you can so that you're not part-timing your way to struggling for 9 months before you're like, all right, I got to change my schedule. So I just wanted to go through as much of that horrible phase as fast as I could because there was too many people doing well and I was very excited about joining them versus being where I was at. So I wanted to cut the learning curve as fast as possible, even if you've been here a year or 3 years. So here's a straight up thing that happened to me in my business. We flipped from in-home to virtual, and I was one of the last groups to adapt. I was so hard for me to learn to sell in person. I was like, dude, all of our team's going to be homeless as soon as we try to do this over the phone because we don't know how to do it and we all suck. I don't want to do that. So I was like, no, we're staying in house, dude. We're definitely not doing that. My whole business collapsed and like I watched it happen in real time in 7 months. We went from 1.8 million to 500 grand a month as a team, and I got to watch it all happen. And you kind of sit there when you are getting murdered. Sometimes your gut reaction, you get so distracted or nervous or scared that you do nothing. And I did nothing for about a month when that was happening. And then I was like, well, I'm either going to sit here and lose everything that I, built indefinitely, like forever, or I can go, all right, now I have to do my own, I have to follow my own rules. Now I have to reset for 90 days. So for the next 90 days, I'm going to go out and sell my ass off and talk to as many people about what we do as I possibly can, as hard as I can for 3 straight months, no days off. And so that is what I had to take my own advice about re-pushing that 90 days, get sales momentum. Anytime that there's a problem in your business, you go out and sell and get paid, it solves the majority of your problems.
Man,
So it builds confidence, momentum. Anytime that you get trapped and stuck in your business, if you do a really hard push and start getting paid again, it does take care of a lot of the issues that you're having. So I was like, all right, well, now time to go get back in the saddle really heavy, sell a bunch of insurance, get my confidence on the virtual side up, and now teach people what I'm doing. And I want to talk to everyone and tell them, like, I know how to do this now because I just did it for 90 days. How many people can I get into my business and help? So you can execute that play at any point in time in your career to have a big momentum shift. It just sucks, dude. And it's very time consuming and it's very stressful for a few months. And you miss a lot of stuff for a few months. And maybe you're not home. Like, dude, I've got a little kid now. So, like, that's not really fun to be away from him. But it's either I do my job now or I have to be stuck in this slow growth, no movement, no momentum phase for another 3 years. I don't want to do that, dude. This sucks. I'd rather just power through all that stuff now, fix it so that I can keep moving forward with some momentum. And then not letting off the gas when you first catch your momentum. I get asked a lot, Bryce, and then I won't try to run too long over here.
You're
But
good.
like, hey, what do you think was the biggest separator between you going from 240 grand in your first 6 months to turning over that next year and doing 780 to turning over the next year doing 940? Why do you think you were able to do that versus like everybody else? I didn't change my schedule when I got momentum, dude. And that's where I saw a huge improvement in my average production. My average per sale went up a bunch. Once I learned how to do it, I just maintained that exact calendar for 3 years, almost 3.5 years. I didn't miss 38 to 44 appointments for 3.5 consecutive years. And on the virtual side, I was never going to miss 20 presentations and numbers a week. If I could only close at half, 10 apps a week, I'm in good shape. And so that's kind of like the biggest separator is people get a skill, they get momentum, they're starting to do well. And they're like, well, I'm obviously the man now. I get to chill. This is awesome. And then you lose all the steam that you just spent building. And then you have to restart again. And there's nothing harder to get than momentum. It is the most brutal thing to grab. So that's the that's my spiel.
my man, thanks a ton, bro. All right. This business is caught, not taught. And you threw out a lot of things today. You know what I mean? That hopefully sometime, and the reason I said it because it's timing too. There's always timing in business and when you hear things, and whether you go, man, I'm ready to take this and run with it. And so what you're doing right now with your team, dude, is huge. Thank you for hopping on here with us. And I see the chat's just going crazy, dude. So appreciate it, dude. All right. Everybody,
Yeah.
have a great weekend. We got new agent training tomorrow morning. Okay.
Hey, Dom, can I leave you with one thing?
Hell yeah.
So this group specifically, and the guys in here, like the Bryce and Schmidt and Dom was a pivotal person in my entire career. And so is Schmidt. I have ripped off and trained on Schmidt's uh, how to set real appointments thing, where he's like, listen, I'm only available at 7 p.m. or 11:30 p.m. Do you have a preference? I've been teaching that relentlessly that I ripped off straight from Schmidt, dude. So the fact that you guys are in this room with these kind of leaders, like not everybody gets that lucky that works at the company, dude. So just be super grateful and be willing to show up and always be willing to reach out for help because there's not a lot of groups where they have this kind of core leadership all the way at the top. Like Dom is still another time Hall of Fame producer last year, yeah?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like, dude, not many people want to keep doing that. It's a lot of work. So being in this type of a group where you've got all these Hall of Fame producers that you can lean on, I hope everybody knows how fortunate you are to have this kind of leadership, lead from the front mentality stuff, because not everybody gets that lucky. And I was one of those guys that was also very, very lucky to have these guys and Zach and Sean and John in my corner. And that's what changed my whole career, getting plugged into the right people. So I just wanted to drive home, dude, that I really appreciate you and Bryce and Schmidt and everybody that's helped me. And you guys could not really be in a better spot to get as much help as you'd ever need. So I appreciate you a lot.
Right on, bro.
Appreciate you, dude.
I appreciate you, dude.
You got it. All right, guys. It was great to see you. Hopefully I bump into some of you guys at Ignite and at
Hell
convention.
yeah. We'll definitely be at Ignite.
Cool.
All
All
right.
right. Well, I
All right,
appreciate
brother.
you. I'll see you
Thanks,
guys.
Paul.